I'm John Stahl-Wert, and along with my colleagues around the world, we're devoted to supporting and encouraging men and women to make the biggest positive impact that they can make through their leadership. Many years ago, somebody asked Peter Drucker, the great management guru of the last century, the question, what is the most important question a leader needs to ask? And he thought about that for a bit, and Peter Drucker's answer to that question was that the most important question is, who does what? And I've unpacked that, over many hours, over many years, and he is right that it's such a significant question. Jim Collins talked about this in his book, Good to Great, when he talked about getting the right people, onto the bus, into the right seat. It's very, very important. I'd like to go to a more fundamental answer to the question, what is the most important question we have to answer as leaders? And here's what I think it is. How important, how valuable are our people? Now, the knee-jerk response that I get, and I want you to think about this in terms of, your own journey into getting work done and hiring people and supporting them and so forth. Our knee-jerk reaction to that question is, well, of course they're important. It's kind of a duh question. How important are our people? Our people are important. And in fact, it's a slogan. Our people are our number one asset. I hear this all the time. But I want to suggest to you that as I have watched myself, watched others, watched businesses around the world, I don't believe that we sufficiently understand just how potent, powerful, essential, valuable our people actually are. I know we value them. But I don't believe, based on our behavior, that we really appreciate the depth of the asset that is a human person fully engaged at work. See, through the lens of our leadership, we are quite aware of our own contribution. We're quite aware that we've got the plan. We're in charge. We can see the blueprint. We built the thing in the first place. We used to do it ourselves. We're aware of our own value. And then with our people, we bring them in to help us. But hiring people to help us, providing job descriptions in which we tell them what to do to help us, managing the things that we asked of them according to the job description to help us, all of that is a reflection of what we know about what needs to be done, which we transfer to our people and then we help them to do it. But it is clear from the data, it's clear from observation of the best companies on earth, that the enterprises that outperform, out-earn, out-innovate, accelerate faster than their peers, attract better people, keep better people, are enterprises that have woken up to the fact that inside the human beings that come to work is far more than the tasks we've assigned to them and the standards that we've given to them and the things that we're going to review their performance on. Inside the human person is far more. And that far more that's there, imagination, a sense of meaning, their unique hardwiring, they think a certain way, they've had certain experiences we haven't had. Their willingness to raise their hand and offer more inside that person beyond job description is the difference maker. I've collected stories for decades about this. The most improbable, contributor, the forklift operator out in the back of the warehouse who changes everything because he sees something, he says something, he has an idea about something, and he's willing to risk raising his hand and offering it. Not on the job description, not expected from him, but has the willingness to offer it And the thing that's difficult about this for us is that we can't buy that. And we can't manage it. We can't incentivize it. The deeper value that our people bring to work, they choose to offer. They choose, or they choose not to. They make the decision to go the second mile, to take the second step, to make the second effort, to offer an idea, or they choose not to. You know, human beings are sensible, and if we haven't earned their trust, if we've shown that we're a workplace that doesn't honor their contribution, if they're not sure what we're about, they know what their job is and they know what they have to do to get their paycheck. People are sensible and they will do what's necessary. And at the end of the day, they might smile at us and say, "Have a good evening, boss." But that doesn't mean they've brought what they could bring. And we managers, we leaders, we cannot reach into them and extract those things. Quite frankly, we don't even know it's there. And so our leadership practice creates the conditions either for people to do what's needed to keep their job and to collect their paycheck. Because, you know, at the end of the day, they've got a family to support, right? I respect that. Or our behavior creates the conditions that cause people to decide, I could do more. I've got an idea. Or let me bring that to the table. There was a great Pittsburgher named Sam Shoemaker who moved to this city in 1954. Sam was a priest with the Episcopal Church up in New York, and he came down here, and he gathered business leaders in Pittsburgh from 1954 to about 1962 when he retired. And Time magazine was aware of Sam because Sam had been this very impactful clergyman up in New York City for decades. In fact, all the way back in 1927, Sam had founded a magazine up in New York called Faith at Work, in which he was exploring the meaningfulness of workplaces as meaningful places, not just jobs. And so he was often in the scene column on Monday morning in the paper, and he was a celebrity priest in New York. And when he moved to Pittsburgh, Time magazine sent a reporter down, and they did a story. You can Google this. It is called "God and Steel" in Pittsburgh, and it was a story about Sam Shoemaker. And in that article, Sam had already begun to gather the captains of industry in this city and to give them a vision for the well-being of the city, bigger than their business, bigger than, the barges, the bridges, the buildings, the businesses, so that leaders could begin to think at a larger level of how do we make Pittsburgh better? And in that article, Sam said something that just struck me when I first encountered it back in, 1994, 1995. He said, the untapped conviction and belief in this city. Now let's translate that over. The men and the women that come to work for us who could be more, do more. We don't even know what it is. I mean, they're doing their job, right? And good on them for that. We pay them for that. But they could be more, do more. They just won't for us because we don't deserve them to be more, do more. Making the translation, he said, the untapped conviction and belief in this city means more to it than all the coal in the hills and all the steel in the mills. If we could train and mobilize that force, he's talking about the untapped capacity of the human person. He said Pittsburgh would become a spiritual pilot plant for America. What was Sam saying? He was saying the human being is immensely valuable. What is the value of our people? We leaders need to ask that question. How valuable are our people? Yeah, they're very valuable. No. How valuable are they? And are we willing to go to the effort to learn how to create a workplace where human beings elect to do more, be more, offer more, where they They feel that they have the dignity of their humanness, and workplaces can become places of meaning. You know, the old saying, thank God it's Friday. What's that all about? Well, that's what we say when a workplace is a job. And thank God for Friday, because I can do something else that's more meaningful to me. All of life is to be meaningful. We leaders are the impactors of whether work is one of those places that has meaning. I've been watching this for 30 plus years. And when the servant leader work began, you know, my lens was smaller. I was working with companies around the world, and the time horizon of my learning was shorter. But I've had time to watch and to think about Sam Shoemaker's comment about the untapped capacity, the untapped potential, conviction, belief, potentiality in the human person, and to compare that across the globe. And I want to just put Sam Shoemaker now into a bit of a chorus with some other voices. Our second office, we're incorporated in the United States, and we're incorporated in Singapore. Our Singapore office, which is the hub of our Asia work, is incorporated in the nation that has now risen to nation number 1 out of 197 nations on earth in terms of GDP per capita. There's a sub-measure there, gross domestic product per capita as measured in what they call purchasing power parity. So apples compared to apples. Number 1 out of 197. We're also working in Burundi, which is nation number 197 out of 197. Now, why in both nations and many others? Because we want to be accountable to do good work that works. And therefore, we want to be tested in the most extreme places of high accountability on earth. That's Singapore. And in places with very limited resources, we want to be tested to be able to add value and to bring help to leaders, business owners, managers in various parts of earth. Let me tell you that in 1965, Singapore was not nation 1 out of 197. In fact, if you would have looked at the stack of nations, Singapore was close to the bottom in 1965 when they were founded. They were identical as an economic powerhouse on earth with Kenya in 1965. And Lee Kuan Yew, the founding leader of Singapore, leadership is the differentiating variable. It's the difference maker of any enterprise, and that includes national enterprises. Lee Kuan Yew was a good leader in 1965. And he was a close friend of a Kenyan named Thomas Mboya. They had been studying in England together, and they were both interested in what does it look like to lead in such a way that lifts businesses, lifts governments, lifts nations. And they were deeply respectful of one another because they were both working at the same issues. And in fact, Lee Kuan Yew credits Thomas Mboya with some of the foundational work he decided to take back to Singapore and implement. Let me tell you a little bit about Singapore. Keep remembering Sam Shoemaker, the untapped conviction in this city. The untapped conviction and belief in this city means more to it than all the coal in the hills and all the steel in the mills. Resources like coal, very valuable. Resources like steel, very valuable. And Shoemaker was saying, people are more valuable. Well, Lee Kuan Yew was in Singapore. They did not have coal, and they did not have steel, and they did not have wood. You can drill anywhere on that island, and you can't find water to drink. Singapore was a mud flat, Lee Kuan Yew's language. Poor Chinese, poor Malay Muslims, poor Tamil Indians, surrounded by threats. The British Empire had eased them out of their protectorate status, and they were on their own, with nations of hostility surrounding them on all sides. And Lee Kuan Yew looked around his nation and he said, what am I going to do with this nation? Shoemaker valued people above coal and steel. Lee Kuan Yew decided to value people, period. They could have been the same voice speaking. And so what Lee Kuan Yew did is he made an investment in leadership and people. We need to grow leaders of character. We need to stamp out corruption. We need to grow our people. We need to invest in our people. We need to strengthen our people. We need to do good work in the world. We need to deliver good service to customers. How can we make Singapore a place that's good to do business in? Well, the way we do that is we keep our promises. We don't reach into people's pockets and yank, wads of cash out if they need a permit to do business here like a lot of the world does. And we develop our people. And so the wealth of Singapore is not oil. It is not steel. It's not coal. It's not diamonds. They don't have an agricultural, wealth there. They didn't have anything but people. They invested in them. They learned how to grow them. They learned how to treat them right. They learned how to put standards in front of people so that people could become excellent, so that people could do their best, get better, so that people could serve others well. The wealth of that nation is a product of excellent leadership. Mboya, Kenya, 1965, didn't have an opportunity to develop the identical commitments that he had to do the very same thing in Kenya that Lee Kuan Yew did in Singapore. Mboya was assassinated by someone who wanted power for himself in order to grow his own capability. I don't think we have a better parable of the power and the importance of good leadership. When I first started traveling around the world, 45 years ago, I started making visits to poor places when I was a teenager. I never heard leaders in the poor nations of the world take responsibility for their poverty. Now, it could have been talked about. I never heard it. I heard blame. Somebody else did this to us. Someone else is responsible for this. We can't do anything. What could we do? We were treated badly. And by the way, they were. So the observation of the fact that they had been mistreated and that there were injustices was accurate for sure. But the responsibility for their condition was always blamed entirely on those external factors. What's really interesting and promising today, and you can poke around on this, and I'd encourage you to, is over the last 20 years, voices have been coming onto the public stage around the world saying, we do have some assets. We do have some resources. There is something we can do, and we can take responsibility. I'll give you one example. John Wambura, who lives in Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, says this, and I quote, this is John Wambura, "Africa does not have a poverty, violence, or injustice problem so much as Africa has a leadership problem." This is what Lee Kuan Yew said back in 1965. This is what Thomas Mboya said back in 1965. This is what Sam Shoemaker said back in 1954. The untapped, the assets we do have. Yes, there is violence. Yes, there is hardship. Yes, there is difficulty. Yes, there is injustice. But we've got assets. And that untapped body of assets we have, which fundamentally is found in our people, is enough for us to build from. Now, what do we do when we make a statement like that? We tee up the importance of becoming good leaders. There is always something coming against us. Always. We always have challenges. We've got competitors and we've got turns in the market and we've got spikes in our raw material prices. There is always something coming against us, and there is nothing fair or just about it. Any complaint about the injustice and the unfairness of this world is, in my book, likely true. I don't understand why it is that way. It is that way. But we always have something to work with. And I simply want to encourage you in the midst of the issues that you're facing, the challenges that you're facing, to ask yourself again the question, how valuable are my people? I got problems in leadership, but I got people. How valuable are they? And have I done everything that I can do to strengthen, to elevate the dignity of their experience at work such that they might elect to do more? I look at the world, the nations of the world, kind of on a 2x2, and if you can sort of track with me over here from your vantage point on the left-hand side, they don't have very many resources. They have lots of resources. Now you can think about this in terms of your business too. We've got a couple of assets, or we are really well positioned with a lot of assets. Don't have much to work with, have a lot to work with. And then from bottom to top, and then from left to right, we're exercising bad leadership, or we're exercising good leadership. And I plot the nations of the world on that grid. Bad leadership, limited resources. Good leadership, limited resources. Bad resources, bad leadership, limited resources. Lots of resources, bad leadership. And I tell you that we have nations in all four quadrants. We have nations with limited resources that are being led well, and they're beautiful. Would they wish to have more to work with? Of course. Singapore is number one on earth. Excellent leadership, nothing to work with but people. One of the nations on earth that we work with and deeply committed to is the Democratic Republic of the Congo, DRC. They have a legacy of terrible leadership that goes back to Belgian King Leopold in the 19th century, who brutalized the place and taught them that leadership is best exercised through brutality. And listen, our people and our successors learn their lessons and they do what they're taught. And there is likely no nation on earth that is more natural resource rich than the Democratic Republic of the Congo. That is a wealthy nation in natural resources. Everything one could hope for is there. Singapore, nothing. DRC, everything. And the leadership model from King Leopold set the tone for it's about me, it's about what's mine, it's about keeping people in line, it's about controlling people, it's about keeping people in fear. You do what I tell you to do. I'm giving you parables. Our businesses map on this as well. I know what to do, you don't know what to do, you should do what I say. Or here's the standard, but let me create conditions for the elevation and the growth of you. Leadership is fundamentally about valuing our people such that we make the investments in them to become who they can be. We make the investments in our culture, in our behavior, so that work, coming to work is a good thing. It's a wholesome thing. We have friends there. We can trust our bosses. We can share freely there. We can raise our ideas. We look around and we see our teammates are on the same page. We live out our values. The investment in becoming a good leader begins with this question: how valuable truly are our people? They are the difference makers. One of our team members, he's the president of our global mission. His name is Dr. Nelson Okanya. As I am recording this, he's in Kenya doing work. He was working with a tribal leader over the last couple of years who was generation after generation after generation after generation of tribal leader. And this man came and sat in Nelson's training and didn't pay much attention. And at a certain point, Nelson talked with this man. He was a good man and said, how's it going for you? Today we were working on building a vision statement for your people so they have a sense of meaning. And he said, well, I never did that. I'm the chief. So, I tell people what to do and they do it. And what that good man was expressing is what many leaders know. Look, I'm the boss and I know what to do and I'm going to tell you what to do. I don't fault that, because if we aren't taught differently, that's what we're going to do. What he didn't yet know is how impactful it is for us as leaders to provide conviction and belief to our people. The untapped conviction and belief is powerful. He didn't yet know that. And a couple of days later, Dr. Okanya was speaking with this tribal chief, and he said, I was thinking about it. And he said, I have a vision that I'm going to begin to share with my people so that they can have vision, so that they can have more than an assignment from me, so that they can have a sense of meaning and vision and purpose and conviction and belief. And what does that do? That wakes up that untapped capability of the human person at the deepest root of our work, friends. I'm speaking to friends in business, friends in management, friends in leadership who understand this already. I want you to hear this as support and encouragement for what you already believe. Our deep work in leadership is to create that environment of meaning and trust and human dignity that allows people to, yes, contribute the assignment we've given them, got to get the job done, but to bring the rest of their humanity to the task, the rest of their humanness and conviction and belief. The power of human beings to do immensely important things is immeasurable. I've come to that metric that the awakening of human beings in workplaces has an impact that is immeasurable, infinite, potent. Who would have said to Lee Kuan Yew in 1965, watch some of those old videos as he stares, he talks eloquently in 65, as he stares into the almost impossibility of his nation making it. Who would have believed in 1965 that that nation, led well, investing in its people, would become the number one nation on earth in goodness? So I encourage you, wherever you are right now, the opportunity for growth and development through the investment in people is immense. And I thank you for what you're doing to make those investments, and I encourage you in your continuing leadership.
For more information about the Center for Serving Leadership, visit our website at centerforservingleadership.com.